Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Carruthers, and this is our weekly Off Track podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I've got Bice up there in the corner, and down below I've got the new look, fresh look of Cameron Petersen. The long locks of hair are completely gone, and he looks like Cameron Petersen from 2015. So is that a short hair don't care, or a short hair I care more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that one, but yeah, it was time. New wrist, new year, new look. You know, trying to come into it fresh.
I mean, you've got to be looking forward to like starting over.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, last year wasn't ideal. You know, a lot of unlucky things happening, and haven't been on a bike since Laguna. So I'm itching. I can't wait to get back. We test next week, so I'm counting down the days.
So you've been riding motocross and stuff, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Does the wrist feel really good? Because I know it was a painful thing that started a while ago, right? I mean, it wasn't just the last part that was just kind of the part that pushed you over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been dealing with pain-wise since 2011. I've been dealing with pain, but then after the crash at Barber, that was just elevated kind of to a whole nother level. So pain-wise, wrist feels great, no pain. I'm living my day-to-day life like I normally would. Just taking a little bit longer than what we thought to get the strength back and kind of back to being ready to ride a motorcycle. But it's going to take time. Doctor said at least 18 months for it to be 100%. So we're doing everything we can right now to get back to being ready to ride a bike. So, we'll get to see next week how the wrist is doing.
Cam, I was thinking about this morning, and I guess any broken bone or injury is never fun. But I was thinking, whenever you hear somebody breaking their femur, you kind of cringe and think that's horrible. But that's one giant bone that is taken care of. The wrist thing is ridiculous. There's so many bones in there and things that don't get blood flow as well as they should, and all the stuff that can go wrong there. I would not wish that on anybody. So for you to get through that, and you had some issues before with that, is it now to the point where you've got all of that cleaned up, or most of it? Do you have hardware in there still?
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I broke my femur a few years ago, and honestly, I'd rather break that again than deal with what I'm going with my wrist,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just, that little bone I broke back in 2011 or whenever it was, that little scaphoid bone. It's one of the worst bones that you can break just because of the blood flow that it gets, and it only gets blood flow from one side. So, unfortunately, just leaving it for so long, kind of broken, the arthritis and everything around the wrist got really bad. So they ended up just taking the whole row of bone out. So there's no hardware in there, just 4 less bone in the wrist. And like I said, it feels great. I've actually got quite a lot of mobility back, which is one of the things I was looking forward most to was getting that range of motion back. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time, but I do feel like we've taken a step in the right direction, and already it's feeling better. So I guess time will tell.
And most importantly, is you're able to play golf.
Yeah. Golf swing hasn't changed much, which is unfortunate. I was hoping it was going to fix my slice, but it hasn't.
It looks good when I see it on the Instagram there. It looks like the swing was honed. Maybe that's just 1 out of like 100.
Yeah, it's I take as many swings as it takes to get that good video.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't you take your hat off, spin around a little bit, and show us the hair?
Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
Oh,
it's fresh.
That is.
It's got to be 10 pounds lighter.
Feels like it. I mean, my hats and stuff, I've had to go two clicks smaller. So
There you go. That's how you can tell.
yeah, I might have to get a smaller helmet.
Yes. Yeah,
Sean,
it's like football players with some of that hair. I don't know how they get that under their football helmets.
Yeah.
Sean's head's so big he can't even wear a hat.
I can't. Yeah.
That
And I
thing would
can't
be
grow
on
my
the
hair
last
because
hole.
I look like the great Gazoo. Cam doesn't know who that is. Hey, Cam, a couple things I want to ask you. So, speaking of football, I thought about this again during the NFL season too. There are a lot of quarterbacks that were out this year, and I would see like a good example would be Joe Burrow with the Bengals. He was hurt. He was on the sideline every single game. He was working with the other quarterbacks. He was there. And the one thing about you, I think you went to almost every single round that we had, even though you weren't racing. You were there all the time. It was your team. You were doing what you were obviously meeting with the fans. The fans were all wishing you well. So you were doing your part for the team, but you were also kind of staying in the game, so to speak. Was that a conscious thing? And how did, what was your thought process behind doing that?
Honestly, Sean, the main thing is, I'm just a fan of the sport. I love it. I really do love it. It's my passion. So being away from the racetrack's tough. And obviously I wanted to keep my ride for 2024. So that also played into it. But Richard and the team, they're never standing still. They're always developing the bike, always coming out with something new. And I just wanted to make sure I was at the track and seeing the changes and the stuff that they were going through, because you can learn from everybody. And even having JD ride my bike, we found some stuff and figured out some stuff that might work. So yeah, main thing was just kind of making sure I was there to make sure I didn't lose any time and fall behind and just stay fresh in everybody's minds, make sure my face was in the paddock. So nobody forgot about me, because, I honestly believe we still haven't seen the best. I really wanted to make sure I got that opportunity at least for one more year, because 2023 was super unfortunate.
I was actually impressed with him at the races, because even when JD had success, he was like happy for him,
Yeah.
I would have been like, when they weren't looking, like jacking with the fork settings or something, right? So he'd be like chattering and stuff. But, he was there and he was in the podium ceremonies, and he just, you could tell he was actually happy for him, which is kind of cool, because not all people would be like that. But I think, like you said, you're a fan, you want to be at the races. You did have job security of some sort. So it's like you weren't, thinking, oh God, I'm going to lose my ride. I'm sure that thought crossed your mind, but it wasn't reality.
No, right. And, like you said, it's seeing JD, even if it was on my bike, it was still my bike crossing that finish line first, So,
Right.
and me and JD get along great. So it was just cool to kind of see him come back after wanting to be in the paddock for so long, and getting that win was pretty damn cool. But, honestly, I had a bunch of people telling me that I didn't have to worry about my job in 2024, but I know what this paddock's like, and I know things can change so quickly. I mean, just look at Maddie, So, honestly, main thing was just making sure that everybody knew that I was interested and I wanted to be there, and I wanted to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Matthew Skoltz. It's interesting with him. We still don't know yet what he's going to be doing. I think he's still over in South Africa, isn't he, Cam? I mean, he's back home.
Yeah, I think so. I actually haven't spoke to him in a while. I think he lost his phone. So
He did. He just WhatsApped me yesterday. He said, "Hey, Sean, I'm sorry I lost my phone." I was going, "Where are you?"
Not a good time to lose your phone.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, we're trying to help him. We're trying to help the dude. We can't even get a hold of him. So. But no, I mean, it's one of those things. Matthew was, I think he was the longest tenured rider in the paddock, and you just thought that was never going to end. And now, he's got this situation where he's got to find some other options, and I think he might have some. But it's got to be tough. And I know how close you are to him. I know how close you are to Jake. It's just tough when one of you guys is out, and you're kind of a brotherhood, right? Isn't that how you describe it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we really are. But I've kind of heard what was going on, and the thing is, I've been in Matty's shoes before, and I know how stressful it is. But Matty's proven himself time and time again, so I don't think he'll have a problem finding something. It's just a matter of everything coming together. But yeah, it's I know Trig. He's got such a good heart, and he didn't mean to do anything, um, to hurt anybody or do that. So I know it was coming from a good place, but the thing is, at the end of the day, I know Matty's going to be okay, and he'll find something. So, but going back, that's why I said I wanted to make sure I was at the track every single weekend, so that something like that wouldn't happen to me.
Yeah, we always say this thing about keeping yourself in the window, and it seems like that's the case. I remember that one year when after Josh Herron was in Moto 2. I mean, he came back at the end of the year. I think he was at New Jersey that last round just to kind of say, hey, you probably heard about me. I'm here. And I mean, he was able to turn it into something. Now it's a different situation, but for sure. I mean, whether it's 2 years or a year or whatever, you guys are always trying to figure out what your next thing is going to be. So I was really glad you did that, especially for the fans, because you're a fan favorite for sure, and it was so cool to be able to see you be able to spend the time you could, because you had a little bit more time with the fans and stuff. I mean, everybody was coming up to you, and it was just delightful to see that. So you got the personality for it.
No, I appreciate that, Sean. And actually, yeah, getting to go to the races and not race, I had a lot of free time to do some other stuff, like go do the VIP experience and kind of see a lot of other stuff that MotoAmerica do that on normal weekends we don't really get to see. So, that side of things was pretty cool. Kind of getting to see a whole different side of MotoAmerica was pretty cool.
So the test you've got, oh, sorry, Sean, the test you've got next week, is that a 1 day or a 2 day?
It's a 2 day. It's at the Podium Club in Arizona. So it's a track that we've never been to. So, I think, the first test is just going to be more about kind of just getting my eyes up to speed, learning the track. And I know Richard's got a bunch of new stuff that we want to try on the bike. So, I'm pretty pumped to be going to a new track, and I enjoy Button Willow, but yeah, pumped to be going to the Podium Club.
Well, given your situation, it's probably not a bad idea to be going to a new track, because you can learn it, but and kind of take your time and also exactly. Think about this, you know what I mean, and everything else that's going on from not having ridden in a long time. So I think it's probably a perfect case scenario. It's like some guys like to come back from injury and have it be wet, because everything's slower a little bit, but
exactly. I can take my time getting back up to the speed of things, and when I see Jake go 3 seconds quicker than me, I'm not gonna panic and think, oh, I'm done. What am I gonna do this year? And, yeah,
losing your phone like Matthew.
Yeah. Not only that, but in the past, now I don't know, you'll have to tell us this, if this is a case when you guys have gone to Buttonwell in the past. Richard has always invited some of the other teams, so then you got M4 there and Titler's or whatever, and you're like not only going against your teammate, but it's almost like a full-on test for all the teams. Are you guys alone at this next test, or has he invited some other teams? Do you know?
I'm actually not 100% sure.
Okay,
but I enjoy having the other teams there, and especially for tracks like when we have those private days, it just helps get a little bit more rubber down on the track, and but it does make it interesting, because I don't care what people said at a test. They can say they're focusing on their own program, but at the end of the day, everybody's looking at live timing to see where they stack up. But yeah, I think going to the Podium Club and just getting back into the swing of things is going to be perfect for me.
Now, you may not know this, but how did the bike change a lot since you've ridden it? I mean, obviously they had whatever they did during this part of the season you weren't there, but he's also had the off season, and you know how he is. I'm sure. I mean, there could be a lot of things to try.
Yeah, so I know during the season, obviously, once I was off the bike, I know they found a bunch of stuff with Jake and can't remember if it was Coda or somewhere. We went somewhere, and I had a conversation with Jake, and he just said that the bike's better than it's ever been. So I haven't got to ridden that version of the bike. So I'm sure there's going to be some stuff to get used to there. And then, Rich has got a bunch of stuff cooking up that I'm sure we're going to try over the next 2 months, 3 months. Just the usual stuff, some swing arms, seating position, just all of that good stuff. So, I think the bike coming into this year is going to be quite a bit different to what we had last year.
Do you find that things that Jake likes, you also like, or is that not always the case?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, when it comes to a base setup and length of bike, and we typically end up liking the same thing. And then from there, we'll make spring changes, or because I'm a little bit heavier than Jake, so and I get to the brakes a little bit different to what Jake does. So, in terms of actual geometry on the bike, I think we pretty much like the same thing. And then spring rates and compression stacks and stuff is kind of where we go different.
Cam, one of the things I found out, I kind of knew it, but when JD got on the bike at Coda, he actually didn't even know this. And I want to ask you about it. It's the rear brake. Did you have a rear brake on your bike at all? Because JD didn't. And I know Richard doesn't like you guys to use it. So tell us about that rear brake.
No, so, he took the foot pedal off and gave us a rear brake that's just underneath the clutch. You grab it like you grab the clutch.
Right.
So that's just something that's probably taken me the longest to get used to, because I had such a different feel with the foot rear brake, and then just chatting to Miguel Oliveira and some of the guys overseas, they just say that you have to use the rear brake. If you want to go fast, you have to use the rear brake, and you have to know where to use it. So Richard just gave us the one on the hand so that we could use it in more places and use it going around right-handers where, a lot of the time you can't get your foot to the rear brake. So, it's just about getting used to having it up on the handlebar. There was a few times last year where I remember going to turn 5 in Alabama. I got in there a little bit hot, and you get into that panic situation, and I'll just try reach my foot and grab the rear brake, and then there's nothing there, and it turns into a whole big panic. But so we have a rear brake. It's just on the handlebar, and it's a lot more adjustable, and you can use it in a lot more spots.
Yeah, I think Josh Hayes had to get used to it a little bit too for the times that he rode it. In fact, I think that one time he went off the track, he kind of panicked and went for the right foot. I mean, obviously muscle memory is tough. It's got to be hard for you. I mean, obviously JD being a flat tracker, the rear brake is used a lot. And I know Gagne with motocross, but you do a lot of moto too. So you probably, I would assume, do need to use that. It's something, to your point, it seems like it's come into play a lot more in recent years than it used to be. I would talk to riders who wouldn't even use the rear brake. Now, this is probably before traction control and lift control and all that stuff, but it's really changed. You guys have to use all your tools when you have them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as time's gone on, I feel like technique gets a lot better, and you see it on the motocross side of things. Like the kids on 85s these days are completely different to what they used to be 10 years ago, and it's the same with us. So yeah.
One more question about equipment, Paul. So Cam, last year was the first year that you guys had the neutral lockout. Were you okay with it? Did it work for you? And did you like having it?
Yeah, neutral lockout's amazing. Not worrying about hitting false neutrals going to corners. But I know we did change the actual gear ratio with that. And most of the tracks we were into, we were kind of in completely different gears, and that took a lot of getting used to. Honestly, I think I kind of preferred the old gearbox, but the neutral lockout thing I think it should be a must on everybody. It makes it so much safer to ride. So, yeah, I think the main thing was just finding the right gearing and making sure we could make the most out of it. There were a few spots this year, or last year, should I say, Road Atlanta and a few other places that I feel like the new gear ratio hurt us a little bit. So yeah, we'll see what we have planned for this year.
Yeah, and for the fans to understand, that was something that you guys could do last year. Is you could pick another gear ratio, but once you chose it, you had to use it for the entire rest of the season. So you couldn't go back and you couldn't change it or anything. So it was kind of a commitment you guys had to make. So just so the fans understand that. Was there ever a time where you didn't remember to flip that little lockout thing, or do what you had to do, or did it just come pretty naturally for you?
No, yeah, lucky enough. I'm not that smart. So the crew that we have, I mean, those guys make sure the bike's ready for me to go before I swing my leg over it. Because yeah, I'm not the smartest guy around.
So you're not going to remember anything, basically.
No.
You're just this.
No. Yep.
That's right.
So let's talk
with yours.
John.
Oh, go ahead, Paul. I said I had only one more.
No, you go. I'm going to change the subject entirely. So
well,
go.
I was too. So you change the subject and I'll change it again later. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, as far as the off season goes, I know Big Sis got married, so it looked like you guys all had a good time somewhere in Mexico, wasn't it? Cancun.
Yeah, we went to Cancun.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
It looked fun.
It was a great time, and yeah, the all inclusive thing caught us out on the first day. So,
yeah, that's usually what happens.
Yeah, you get there, and so second day was a bit of a write-off, but yeah, man, what a proud little brother to see my big sister get married, and yeah, actually first time me and the wife have been on vacation together. We've never actually got to go on vacation, so it was cool to get out and go experience a little bit more.
Yeah, and if there's any good thing about being injured, it's being able to take a little bit more time for yourself and kind of let everything else heal as well, and just kind of not be pushing yourself all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a lot of time this off season to do that. So
probably too much.
Way too much. But we had a great time, and now just ready to get back into the swing of things. I'm itching to get back riding.
I want to ask you, Cam, it seems like, I know you're quite taken with the game of golf now. In fact, last week we were going to try to get you on, but we waited too long and you were playing golf with some of your friends. I know you play it, and it seems like you've picked it up. To me, it seems like you've picked it up and embraced it even more over the past few years. And I just thought of this. Now, your brother-in-law is a golf pro, right?
Yeah. He's had his pro card, and we try to convince him all the time. We're like, dude, you need to go try be pro, get on the Corn Ferry, go to the PGA, because he's that good.
Do you play against him? Do you play against him, Cam?
I mean, obviously they live in Greenville, South Carolina now, but when they were living with us, we played a bunch of rounds, and I don't think he could have given me enough shots, and he always ended up beating me. So, but it's crazy. This golf, I've always had a love for golf. In Zimbabwe, we grew up on a golf course, and my dad had golf clubs in my hand when I was 3-4 years old. And, but yeah, for some reason, the last 2 years, I'm not joking. I am so passionate about the game of golf.
You're addicted.
I'm as addicted as it gets. And all I want to do is get good. So, and the nice thing is, the golf is so easy on the body that it doesn't matter what you do. You can go ride and then go get 9 holes in after riding. And so, yeah, honestly, one of my 2024 goals is to tee it up with JP and to beat him.
Wow. That's Jason Pridmar, for those who don't know, who's a really, really good golfer. Are
JP is coming for you.
Are you close? I mean, you're that close that you can think about doing it.
I don't think so. I mean, JP's he's a scratch golfer. He's probably a plus handicap. So I'll say I've probably got 8 shots to go before I'm, able to be competitive with JP.
Well, that's good. It's probably put you second in the paddock anyway.
There's some good golfers in the paddock.
Yeah, I know the Wymans play a lot, and I don't know how good they are, but that's funny.
What's
it
the
would be
best
cool.
part
We
of your
need to get a golf tournament going on with
Yeah,
all
it'd
the
be good.
MotoAmerica golfers.
Yeah, we could do some charity thing at the end of the year, whatever, for
Yeah,
the Air Fence Fund, and it'd be cool.
that would be cool.
'Cause
Figure out
a lot
actually
of people
who is the
play.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the best part of your game, Cam? Is it driving or putting or irons? What are you best at, do you think?
Um, I think my short game's pretty good. Um, yeah, I do lose a lot of shots off the tee, so that's something I need to work on. But yeah, around the greens, I'm pretty good around the greens, which ends up saving me a lot of shots because I do hit a lot of penalties off the tee box.
Yeah.
Is there anything from the game of golf that you can equate to racing motorcycles at all?
Absolutely. I think the whole mental side of things with golf can be so relatable to everything in life. And like, you know, it's the most frustrating sport there is. And, you know, one thing that I'm really trying to work on is beginning of last year. And I do this a lot. And if I'm a little bit behind on the Friday practice or anything like that, and somebody's quicker than me, I'll always focus on somebody else's program, you know, and then push beyond my limits and end up crashing and hurting myself and doing stuff like this. And one thing that I'm really trying to work on with golf is because you have those bad shots and you can start off, but it's just try to brush it off, you know, and focus on the next step that's right in front of you. And I feel like that's honestly something that you can take from golf and take it to the motorcycle side of things and help out big time. So I'm really trying to work on that side of things, you know, like not focus on the negatives and put it behind me and focus on the positives and focus on my own program. So yeah, hopefully the years coming up, I'll be a little bit better at that. And when Jake goes a second quicker than me, I don't send myself to the moon trying to get there too early, you know.
And it's, you know, mentally it's so fatiguing. I think that's got to be a training thing too, because you're out there for 4 hours. Like, unless I'm playing really well, which is rare. Like I always wish it was like 15 holes. Cause like, like the last couple of holes, you're just kind of like, you're drained from it, you know, especially if you're having a bad day.
Yeah, it really is I think the most mentally tough sports in the world. I honestly believe that. And so yeah, I'm trying to take some stuff from golf and bring it into the motorcycle side of things.
Now, where you are in Corona, do you have places nearby?
Yeah, I've got courses all over the place.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. Yeah.
I mean, you guys, golf now you can't find anything under $65, $70. It's so expensive. So that's the issue. Is now it's getting too expensive.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah,
and it's not the same going to the driving range either, and that's not cheap anymore.
Right. No, it's not. Yeah, I mean now I remember when, you know, a large bucket of range balls was $8, $5. Now it's $18.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cam, replicating, you having a perfect golf swing and then replicating it. I mean, it seems like, you know, if you get a perfect golf swing, trying to do it more again, repeatably, is so hard to do. When you're in practice and qualifying, probably not so much the race, because, you know, well, you're also dealing with people on the track at other sessions. But when you go out in a session, do you have a line that you're trying to go on and stay on it and just keep perfecting that line? Or do you try some different stuff during the whole session?
You know, I think the main focus is going out there and just hitting your marks. But, you know, there will be practice sessions where we'll experiment a little bit with, you know, how late we can get on the brakes and how deep we can push into a corner. But, you know, for me, the main thing is like just making sure I hit my marks, because I know if I do that, then everything else will kind of come into play. And so honestly, for me, the main thing is just trying to stay consistent and hit my marks. And, you know, the more you do that, the more comfortable you get, the more confidence you get, and kind of speed comes with that. So, you know, I think everybody's got a different way they go about it, but for me, it's just mainly about making sure I hit my marks, be at the apex, make sure I'm cracking on the gas, driving past the apex, and just kind of stuff like that. And then we'll have times where we experiment of how deep we can get into a corner and stuff like that.
Are we going to see you in the Daytona 200?
That's the plan.
Good.
That's the plan.
Oh,
So yeah, I think we're planning on doing the 200 again. So I told you guys, I think as long as Richard wants to do it, I'm going until I put that Rolex around my wrist. But man, this year it's going to be stacked with the world champs coming in and lots of Ducatis out there, and it's going to be stacked.
It's got to be, and I've heard, it's got to be a frustrating race at times, because the fastest guy in the world isn't getting away, right? So it just always comes down to that. It's not luck, but it's like you got to be positioned correctly, and there's a lot of things that go into it, and it's always a battle right to the flag at the end.
And that's it. It's like, there's 2 years in a row now I've kind of thought I've put myself in the right position, and
it's not.
And yeah, I got beat to the line. So I think a lot of it kind of does have to do with luck. And obviously it helps having a fast bike. So last year, unfortunately, we had some stuff going on, and it was 12 days after my carpal tunnel surgery and arm pump surgery and all of that. And the clutch broke on the start. So yeah, I was running every time I got too close to the finish line in the draft or whatever. I was hitting the limiter. I was on the limiter. So I kind of knew going to the run to the line, I was like, there's no way I can win this. I'm just running onto the rev limiter the whole time. So we've got some stuff that we can do this year. So hopefully it makes it a little bit better. And I'm sure I won't be racing a whole race with a broken clutch.
Cam, one of the things about you riders, when you're during the season, when you guys get hurt or you have a nagging injury that doesn't take you out of racing, or you had a crash, I try not to talk about that because you guys never want to talk about that during the season. But this off season is kind of a good time to kind of talk about some of these things. You mentioned your surgery you had for compartment syndrome. So I don't know if you saw the podcast that we did with Sean Dillon Kelly, where he talked about the debacle he had. But he's some kind of X-Man because somehow that sheath literally started to grow back. Have you looked at what you had done, and is there any concern about that? With your wrist injury, have you been able to even see if that arm pump surgery is going to work for you?
I mean, it worked when I had it last year.
Okay.
It 110% it worked. And actually on the scar that I have up here, I had a little bit of an issue as well. And I guess it's just the way some people's body reacts to it. And with this scar, I kind of had the same issue as the SDK with the kind of scar tissue and the fascia that grows back. It's just so fat and thick. But I mean, I haven't had any issues with mine yet. So hopefully, and I know you have to get it done every certain amount of years because that fascia does grow back, so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The fascia does grow back. So you have to get it done every so often. I mean, like, Jake just had his second arm pump surgery done on the same arm. So I know it's something I'm going to have to have worked on again, but it's working for right now.
Yeah, it's such a gnarly thing to have happen. And I mean, I know from Matty, as you call him. I can't quite bring myself to do that. I've always called him Matty. Yeah, these guys always call him Matty. He, as far as I understand it, he doesn't want to have it done because he doesn't think he's not really keen on it. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know too many people that struggle with arm pump as much as Matthew, and he rides and trains as hard as anybody, and sometimes arm pump is what it is. We just have it, and I've tried to convince Matthew for a long time. I'm like, just go get it done. Just go get it done. It'll make your life so much easier. And I'm not 100% sure why he hasn't quite had it done.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for him because you see him after sessions, he's icing down and everything, and I know how he feels about it. So, and you've had it, you've talked to other people that have. I didn't know, he always says sometimes it doesn't work, but to your point, having to have it done again, that's a revolutionary thing for me to understand. I didn't know that it did grow back naturally, so that's a tricky situation anyway. But have you most of the time you only have it in your right arm because it's your braking arm, but have you had it in both, or do you ever get arm pump in the left side?
The only time I got arm pump on the left side was after the injury on the wrist, kind of re-hurting it, because I just had no strength and was so sore that I was overcompensating with my left arm. But otherwise I really don't kind of struggle with my left arm, mainly just the right hand. And honestly, I think my wrist and the wrist injury had a lot to do with my arm pump.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You were compensating for other issues, which is really hard. Okay, I have to ask you this question. And Richard Stamboli, yeah, he called me names before. He'll do it again, I think. But I'm going to ask you anyway. Cam, well, you may not answer because you don't want him to yell at you either. But okay, Cam, do you trust the electronics on a motorcycle?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay.
You have to. It's tough, it's super hard to just trust in something that we've kind of been taught our whole lives to go against. But you have to. And in the off chance, because there's been so many opportunities where the electronics have saved my life. And it's something you just have to trust them, and in the off chance that something happens, oh well, it's part of the game.
Yeah, if it saved you 9 times and one time it didn't, you're still 9 ahead.
Exactly, and it's so tough because it's something you just have to be like, all right, well, I'm 55 degrees lean angle, I have to get to 100% throttle. It's so scary.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's so counterintuitive for you to be in a situation where every fiber of your being is saying, don't whack open that throttle. You're going to high side the thing to the moon, and you got to trust that the electronics are going to do what they want. So have you ever had a situation where you've gone into a turn or something, or accelerated out of a turn, and you said, okay, I've got to just go WFO with it, and you were surprised that it did what it was supposed to do? Did you ever surprise yourself?
All the time.
Absolutely. I mean, literally almost every single lap, it does something where it catches something. I'm like, and we joke around all the time, but we're going to put a money jar out, and we call it the watchdog on our electronics. And when it gets past a certain point of spin or anything, the watchdog kicks on and brings it back in line. And, every time the watchdog saved our lives, we put $1 into the money jar, because it happens all the time. I mean, I remember one very scary moment was at Brainerd turn 2, where the thing kind of, halfway around the corner, it just decided that it was going to step out a little bit more. And halfway through, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be bad. And just the watchdog catches on and brought it back in line, all nice and safe. So
it's a good name for it.
Yeah, that is a good name.
Yeah.
So I guess that's not so bad. Richard's not going to be upset about that. But conversely, the other side of that's tricky is any kind of intervention on the bike, for the most part, I think. Certainly traction control, probably lift control for sure too. Those things are actually adversely affecting the horsepower, the output of the bike. It's curtailing some things. So sometimes that electronic intervention can really not have a good effect on the performance of the motorcycle. Is it a fine line? Sometimes you got to make sure you don't go over that line. How do you handle that?
Absolutely. And that's why we work on electronics probably 90% of the time, because there's so much adjustability to it that there definitely is a fine line that you can be taking too much power away from the bike, or could be spinning up too much. So trying to find that balance is probably the hardest thing that we as riders and crew go through, is finding that balance, trying to get the bike perfect with electronics wise, because a good electronics package, that could be the difference between third and first. It really can be. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to find that balance. And honestly, I still feel like I'm still trying to figure it out and get to that point, luckily I have the crew that I do, and I have Richard and Darren Marshall helping me out, because otherwise I think it would be a bit of a different story.
I've got a question for you. Is it hard or easy? Is it harder or easier having like the best guy in the truck with you? Like, obviously he's but does it get frustrating? Like, what do I got to do?
No, honestly, at first I was so intimidated. I was like, he's gonna think I'm a complete idiot, and like honestly a little bit scared to say stuff, because he's a genius, and then once you get to know Richard, I'm so grateful that I actually get to work with him, and he is my crew chief, because I don't think I could really have anybody better in my corner. When you get to know Richard, he's a bit of a different guy than what you see at the racetrack,
Okay, that was a really good answer, but it wasn't to the question I asked, because I was actually I was talking about Jake. Like,
the competition.
I didn't get it either.
No, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I didn't explain it well. Like, sharing the truck with Jake Gagne because he's the best guy. Is it make it harder or make it easier? Is it intimidating? I mean,
not really, and maybe because it is Jake and we have the relationship I do, so I might look at it a bit of a different way. But if anything, it's encouraging, like I see what the bike's able to do, and we get to share all the data, and I know what's possible. So it's encouraging having him in the same truck and just kind of getting to see what he does.
Well, also there's probably, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but he's obviously got more pressure on him than you do, because he's supposed to be the guy and you're supposed to be the guy that's trying to be the guy.
Yeah. I mean, but
he does Jake, he doesn't. Pressure's nothing.
He don't give a shit about pressure. He doesn't feel it, or
and
if he does a great job at hiding it.
And at least you never have to worry about him eating your food, because the food he eats isn't even really food, I don't think.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to worry about me eating his. It is kind of, honestly, I mean, our whole team dynamic couldn't be better.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, for sure.
It is kind of interesting, Cam. You and Paul pointed this out. So you're very close with Jake Gagne. We all know that. But at the same time, he's a pretty different guy than you are. It's interesting that you guys do mesh, because everything from what you eat to maybe even, well, you both love moto, I guess, but still at the same time, does Jake play golf much? I don't even know that.
I can't picture that.
No, he doesn't. We actually Laguna last year, we got him to play at 18 at the course right by the track, and I think he enjoyed it.
We went to top.
At least if anything, he got to walk the golf course barefoot. So he was stoked on that.
And we have gone to Top Golf with him a little bit at Barber.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
But that's my point. You two guys are quite different, but you also get along extremely well as any two teammates I've ever seen, and you help each other, I'm sure. So is there maybe a little bit of that opposites attract somewhat that works?
Yeah, we might look different from the outside, but me and Jake share a lot of the same interests and kind of enjoy the same things. But yeah, obviously we've got our own things that we enjoy. Like, I'm massive into ball sports like golf, cricket, rugby, hockey, no matter what it is. And Jake's kind of the opposite. He prefers to snowboard and surf, and which I'm massively a fan of as well. So we get along great. And it's kind of the perfect situation at the track.
I've got it. You know this better than anybody, but like I just said, you're in a really good spot, but you spend a hell of a lot of time not in a very good spot. does it make it even better when you finally get to where you've dreamed of being?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I still every night or whenever, I've got a steam room at the house now, and I still every single day I still remind myself and remember of those struggles and where I came from, just so that you never get complacent, because once you kind of get to the spot that you wanted to make it to, it's very easy to kind of forget where you came from. So I really do try to think about those tough times and where I was, and still, I find myself, I can't believe that we're in this situation, and we kind of made it happen, but we're not done yet. Like I said, I won't be satisfied if I don't win a championship before my career is done. So yeah, we got to make that happen.
Well, and the thing is, if you win a championship, you're going to want to win another one. So, I mean, it's always upwards all the time. There's no doubt about it with you. I know where your drive comes from.
Yeah. Honestly, if I could, I'd love to be racing until I'm 40, 42. So if that's the case and I'm winning, then yeah, let's do it.
That's what Josh Heron said. Everybody looks at Josh Hayes and they're like, hey, if him, then why not me? So, keep it going. Well, we're going to get ready to wrap here, Cam, but I do want to go back to one thing that you touched on. You were talking about Richard a little bit, and I want to ask you this: when you come in from a session, how specific do you get when you're talking with Richard? Do you tell him things like, I need more preload, you got to raise the ride height? Do you get that technical, or do you just tell him it does this, it does that, it's feeling funny? How do you describe things?
Yeah, it's not my job to tell them we need more preload or rebound, and those guys are way smarter than I am at doing that. So, I just try to be as in depth with my feedback as possible. So yeah, just honestly, but I'm not the kind of guy that's like, hey, we need 2 more clicks of rebound, or we need to do this with the springs, but I can tell if a bike's stiff or soft, or if the dive speeds, I can tell a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I try to be in depth as possible, but definitely not the guy that is asking for clicks here and there and telling them what to do.
Yeah, I guess it's less me wondering whether you know what to change, and more what to say to them so that they understand what they need to do it. And is it emotions with your hands? The bike is doing this. How do you describe what you're trying to get the bike to do, or what it isn't doing for you?
I think it's a combination of everything, and Richard's really good, and actually everybody in the team, Corndog as well, and Marshall, everybody, they're really good at asking questions back when you give them their feedback, and they're really good at asking questions back and kind of pinpointing at where you're talking about. So I think it's mainly the communication, but the back and forth between you and the crew chief of kind of the feedback I get and the questions he asks, and yeah, Richard's just really good at asking questions and pinpointing at what I'm telling him and the feedback I'm giving him.
Yeah, it certainly underscores that it takes a team to win races and to win championships, and you got a good one there. And we certainly wish you luck this year, and of course with your testing to see how it goes right off the bat. We're looking for great things out of you, Cam, and glad you're going to be bouncing back. So it's great that you're on with us.
No, I appreciate it, Sean, and yeah, can't wait to get racing. Can't wait to see you guys at the paddock. Yeah, it's been way too long, and yeah, should be an exciting year.
All right,
yeah.
Be safe, and again, like Sean said, thanks for joining us, and say hi to the wife and the dog for me.
I will. All right, on Daddy P, Sean Bice. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything.
Bye.